Josh Bartlett, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really excited to bring him to the stage.
Hey guys, how you all doing? Cool, thanks very much Trey for having me, I appreciate it. What I have for you guys today is some awesome, no-fat, killer content which will teach you how to kill it with software and make a huge amount of money. Do you want to hear that? Yeah. Okay, cool. But first of all, I'm going to tell you a story about how I made a grown man cry, and it has nothing to do with wearing a mankini on stage, I promise. So, the reason I'm telling you this story is not just because I'm proud of the fact that I made a grown man cry or anything, it's because it marks when I first started working for myself, and the biggest shift I've had ever when it comes to working for myself. And that shift of mindset is the thing that changed everything for me, and it's integral to every single part of my business. Without this, I don't think I could have done what I've done, so I have to tell you about this right now. So it was 2004. I was working for a bank. It was before I'd made any money myself or worked for myself. The bank I worked for was in Bristol in the UK. Anybody ever been to Bristol? Oh, cool. What did you think of it? Like it? I didn't like it. I moved to the other side of the world. But anyway, so I was in Bristol. It was a Monday morning. I was tired. I didn't want to be there. I was working in a job I really didn't want to be doing. And I was sat in my office. And I was looking out, daydreaming, probably thinking about making millions of dollars online or growing a beautiful head of hair like Trey has. And I looked out and I saw this guy walk in with his family. He had his wife and his 2 kids with him. And I recognized him. I thought, I know this guy. I know who he is. And I'd seen him on the Friday before. And this is a guy that my colleagues had set up this big financial package for him. And I'd been the last guy that he'd seen, and I'd filled out the paperwork and kind of sent him on his way. And I walked out to go and greet him, and I thought, I wonder what this guy wants. And I looked at him, and he looked really upset, and his wife looked really upset as well. And so I thought, well, what's wrong? I come into my office, I brought him into my office, I closed the door, and I sat down with him. I said, what's the matter? What's going on? Are you okay? How can I help? And he said, well, I haven't had any sleep all weekend. I took this financial package that your colleagues gave me, and I went home and actually read through all of it because I don't really understand this stuff, and I trusted them to advise me in the right way. So he went home and he went through it, and he realized that, you know what? I'm actually worse off than I was before. And this is a guy that couldn't afford to be worse off. He really needed help, and he trusted us. So he'd gone home and he realized he was worse off than he would have been before that for taking this package with us. And he looked like he'd been crying. So I felt kind of awkward, and I felt sorry for him. And he looked at me in the eye and he said, I feel like I've ruined my family's financial future. And he said that in a way that he kind of looked like he was blaming me for that. And I thought, wow, okay, well, I better have a look at it. So I went through all the paperwork, and I actually realized, you know what, this guy's right. He's not making this up. This is the worst thing we could possibly do for him. And I felt really bad. So I took all the stuff, and I told him to stay there, and I went into another office, and I closed the door, and I phoned up my superiors, and I said, we've really done the wrong thing here. We've given him the wrong package, and I explained everything, and I was on the phone for quite a while. And I thought, well, how are we going to do? What do we do? Do we cancel it? Do we send him away? Does he have to send some paperwork in to cancel? Do we revise it? What do we do? And so they said to me, there's a pause, and they said, whatever you do, do not cancel that guy's agreement. Get rid of him. This is a true story. Get rid of him. I was like, what? Get rid of him? But seriously, we can't do this. And he's like, get rid of him. Don't cancel the agreement. So I put the phone down. I realized what I had to do. I didn't want to do it, but I realized what I had to do. So I went back out. I walked past his family and his kids, and I thought, this is, terrible. And I realized, it's the end of the month. They care about the figures. They don't care about the customer. They care about the figures. So I went into my office, I'd walked past his family, and I saw his kids sat there, and I sat down with him, and I looked at the paperwork, and I said, you know what? And I went on the computer, and I canceled it. Thank you. And obviously, I wasn't too popular with my superiors after that. So there was a big target on my back. And it wasn't very long, a couple of days maybe, before they came into my office, and the guy walked right up to me and he said, "You know what? You're stupid if you're ever going to think you can ever make any money online." Because they knew that I'd been messing around with eBay, I'd been trying to make some money online, and they probably figured that, if he thinks he can make money online, he figures he doesn't need to be able to make money here, so he's just kind of doesn't care. And I said, "What?" He said, "You're stupid if you think you can make money online." And I thought about quitting after this whole incident for quite a while, and I actually had my resignation letter in the back of my diary, but I wasn't going to quit that day. I didn't know if I was going to quit. I needed to be able to pay the bills. So I had it there, and that was the last straw. So I stood up and I was like, "You know what? I quit." And I gave them the letter. And I stood up, I got my stuff together, and they were kind of like, "What?" And I literally got up and I walked out of the bank there and then and quit my job, which is one of the most scariest things ever for me to do. And so I walked out, and I was on the street, and I was like, "Hang on a minute, I've just quit my job. Shit, what am I going to do?" So I picked up my phone, and I called my wife. I went, "Hey, how you doing?" She was like, "What's up?" I said, well, it's all right. Just quit my job." I won't repeat what she said, but you can probably guess what she said, right? So I quit my job. And the reason I'm telling you this story is because it's pivotal to everything in my business. It's the last day I realized that day I am never going to sell a product, and we should never sell a product that we don't believe in. And that was the day where I realized that. And I realized I don't want my customers to feel like that guy. I want to make a lot of money, but I don't want my customers to feel that way, right? And an interesting point is that bank no longer exists. They closed down. They're in the UK, they're closed down now. So if you want to keep your business, you can't be doing shit like that. And that brings me to my first point, which is keep the customer first. Always keep them first. Make sure that you're making cool stuff and think about them before you think about the figures.